All right, welcome folks. My name is Carlos Medina, pronouns he, him, his, and I am the Learning Services Manager at Catalyst of San Diego and Imperial Counties. And I am happy to welcome you to our State of the Arts event session on education. And before we start, I just want to go over three really quick housekeeping elements. The first of which is this session is being recorded. You saw a little cue when you entered, and we will send a link to the recording to all participants following the session, so you can look forward to that. Second, we will have a Q&A session later on in the program, but by all means, feel free to drop in any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll work to interweave those throughout today's program. And last but not least, at the end of the session, you'll see a brief 4-question survey that'll pop up on your screen. And we appreciate it's about 60 seconds to complete that, but your responses are critical to helping us improve future programs. And Catalyst is thrilled to partner on this series with the Claire Rose Foundation and City of San Diego Commission for Arts and Culture. This is the 4th in a 6-part learning series that explores how investing in arts and culture strengthens the economic and social fabric of our communities. Now, today's session aligns with a lot of Catalyst's values, but the 3 that really leap out to me are collaboration, as well as impact and future focused. Collaboration among service providers, educators, and families to really dedicate time, resources, and energy to address the needs of students, impact with measurable outcomes, because research shows that youth can explore, thrive, and really succeed in creative youth development environments, and future focused, supporting students so they can contribute to a more vibrant region. So we'll explore some examples from our esteemed panelists. I would like to now hand it over to Matt Dorigo, Director of Creative Youth Development at the Claire Rose Foundation.
Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate the introduction and welcome everyone. Usually takes a few minutes for everybody to kind of ease into the space. So I'm sure there'll be a few others that'll be joining us today, but in respect of everybody's time, say we get it going, right? So as Carlos said, my name is Matt Dorigo. I'm with the Claire Rose Foundation. I'm also joined by my friend and colleague, Jonathan Gluss, the Executive Director for the San Diego Commission for Arts and Culture. We've teamed up on this learning series in the hopes to move the perception of arts and culture in San Diego beyond entertainment and tourism, to truly show the integral role arts and culture plays at the intersection of San Diego's most pressing issues around health and wellness, justice, education, community development, and workforce development. So today we're going to be focusing on education, and arts and education is a really broad and vast area to cover. So we decided to anchor our conversation today around the growing movement around creative youth development, both locally and nationally, and how it has really risen to the occasion for young people and communities during the past 18 to 24 months during COVID, and how it really stepped in to fill gaps in the education, in the human services area, and just to be an incredible resource at the community level. I think the term creative youth development may be new to some people, so I wanted to share a definition that I really like that I believe DeLuge from the Lewis Prize created this, and it is: creative youth development is deep arts learning centered in long-term, multi-generational relationships with artist mentors. It is based in the community rather than in schools, primarily happens during the after-school hours and on weekends, tends to be culturally reflective of the young people involved, and serves young people through the age of 24. In addition to arts learning, creative youth development organizations provide young people with the holistic services such as mental health counseling, academic support, college and career readiness, civic engagement, and workforce development. Youth voice, cultural equity and social justice, and collective action are core principles of creative youth development work. Outcomes are anchored in positive youth development and not just artistic development. And finally, these organizations are using the arts as a platform for personal, community, and social change to create a more just society. So as you can see, that kind of really defines creative youth development in the context of arts education, right? It's not an either or, it's a yes and. There's arts education, there's arts integration, and then there's growing movement around creative youth development at the community level. We are fortunate today to be joined by 4 amazing panelists. We've got Aileen, a student at A Step Beyond, a creative youth development organization in Escondido. We've got Dr. Jose Viriel, a board member at A Step Beyond, as well as principal at Rancho Buena Vista High School. So he's kind of wearing 2 hats today as a board member of a CYD organization, but also as an educator. And so I'm excited to hear his insights. And then we've got DeLuke Smith, the executive director of the Lewis Prize for Music, a national creative youth development funder, as well as a San Diego resident and former CEO of the San Diego Youth Symphony. So without further ado, I would like to hand it over to DeLuke, who will share with us a recent national research that the Lewis Prize did on creative youth development's response during COVID. DeLuke?
Thank you, Matt. You said we have 4 guests, but you only named 3.
Oh, 3 guests. Did I say 4?
Yeah, but I think we should also acknowledge Jennifer Oliver from A Step Beyond is here as well.
Thank you, DeLuke. You're always a good teammate.
And then Matt gave me credit for that definition that he read, which is really more of a compilation than a credit, I think is warranted. This is a field that has been defining itself over the last several generations and only started to use the term creative youth development beginning in 2014. And that process of developing a definition is really an ongoing community effort. So let me share my screen here. So first of all, hi, I'm DeLuke Smith. It's very exciting to be here with you all and pleased to bring the work that I've been doing nationally back to my home community in San Diego. And so just to give I'll bring up some slides and give a little bit of context about the Lewis Prize for Music, and then speak to this very specific research that we were able to undertake just over the course of the last couple of months. So let me get us here. Okay, so what the research I'm going to be sharing is from a report that we issued during Arts Education Week in September. And this is the title of the report. I am not the author of the report. The report is actually co-authored by multiple people, both on the Lewis Prize team and young people and other researchers that we asked to contribute. Really invite everyone to take a look at this. The information I'm sharing is really the centerpiece of the report. It's the basis of some research we did, but the other components are equally important. The reflective commentary of young people, as well as the way in which other researchers have looked at the role of creativity in young people's lives through the pandemic and the racial uprisings and the ongoing kind of economic challenges all of these have instigated. So this is our mission at the Lewis Prize for Music, and we are supporting creative youth development music programs around the country. I won't dwell on this. I'll give you just one moment to read through and highlight that we have also identified the 3 areas of kind of core values for us as well. All right, next. Matt did me a great service by defining creative youth development. I did include here this sentence that really tries to differentiate between discrete arts instruction, arts education, which is only about artistic skill development, and then arts integration, which is the inclusion or the use of artistic activity alongside other curriculum subjects in schools. So we actually see a lot of arts education exists in schools, and arts integration has been growing in schools for 15 to 20 years at this point. Creative youth development, as Matt said, is generally occurring outside of schools, but that's not to say that these other areas of arts learning, don't have any overlapping characteristics. But I think you'll see that as we get into the data, that the way in which creative youth development organizations operate is actually kind of multi-sector in their approach. And so it's not purely educational. This is a very important piece of data, I think, for us all to be very aware of. We have very, very little national data that describes the accessibility of arts education. California is now part of a project called it's the National Arts Education Data Project. But even I was in correspondence with them, they do not currently have racially disaggregated data on the access to arts education. So this is the last time the National Endowment for the Arts released some information on the racial access or the difference in access. And so I want to highlight two things here. First of all, we've heard for years, arts education is being cut, arts education is being cut. Going back to 1982, across the country, arts education is fairly stable for white students. It is not stable for students of color. And you can see that there's essentially been a 50% drop in access for Black students and nearly as high a drop for Latinx or Hispanic students, as this particular research was focused on that terminology. For the Lewis Prize, at the Lewis Prize for Music, for us, this is a systemic problem, and it is not something that you can treat as a kind of global challenge. All kids need more arts education. The reality is we have built our schools and our society in such a way that very specific groups of young people based on their race are being disallowed to participate in arts learning opportunities. So because we think of this as a systemic problem, we focus on that in our funding of organizations. And we believe that organizations who focus on creative youth development through music are actually quite adept at influencing these systems and changing the characteristics in their community so that young people have more direct access to arts learning, both out of school and in school. So this is a picture of the Lewis Prize for Music funding reach and application reach. And the reason that I'm showing you this, you'll see at the bottom, we've given out 2 award cycles, 2020 and 2021, but we also gave an even larger number of grants in the middle or at the very beginning of the COVID pandemic. And these we called these our COVID Community Response Fund grants. These were not recovery grants for arts organizations or for creative youth development organizations. These were for creative youth development organizations that were doing recovery work for their community. And the research that I'm going to share with you is actually derived from what we learned looking at creative youth development work separate from the pandemic and creative youth development work in the context of the pandemic. And that became very apparent to us that the two are actually the same work as the pandemic unfolded. And then as we undertook our 2021 award cycle, 3 of the 2021 $500,000 Lewis Prize awards went to organizations that earlier that year had received our Community Response Fund grants. So that action of stepping forward into the needs of their community, we discovered through an entirely different application, an entirely different process, was also the characteristic body of work that's required for systems change. So in February, March of this year, we conducted a survey of creative youth development music organizations around the country, and we had 280 responses from all of these areas of the country. We've then analyzed that data. One of the questions was essentially the youth that you are serving. What percentage of the youth you are serving are under-resourced or historically marginalized? And these 2 slices of the pie representing 67% of the total respondents, which are so it's well over a majority of the young people in these programs are from these under-resourced and historically marginalized backgrounds. So that tells us, one, that we actually reached creative youth development organizations because that's who they focus on. And so looking at this data will have an important, will reveal important information about what this field is doing and has been doing. This is a super fast snapshot, just so you can see, for example, budget sizes. The majority, 73% of the organizations responded have less than $1 million budgets, 27% over. We saw a large number of their budgets decreasing over the course of the pandemic. Definitely majority women-led, definitely majority white-led. And then there's some information here too about the way in which they engaged technology in the pandemic. So moving forward, that's just a baseline. Here's the baseline. Now, moving forward, when we did our analysis of all of the survey responses, what we found is that 1/3 of the organizations were doing all 5 of these activities. And so we have started to describe this as what we believe is a nexus of systems change. And so they are partnership expansion, movement building, support for young people, doing direct service both before the pandemic and after the pandemic had started, and then having an internal justice orientation, which for us is a range of options from free programming all the way to having youth on boards and a whole range of formal and informal characteristics, most prominently having community and youth representation in leadership and decision-making roles. I'm not going to go in, there is data in the report associated with all 5 of these and the kind of characteristics of how many respondents were doing each of these different categories, but I'm gonna highlight a couple in particular and the findings, kind of our findings component. The main one I'm going to bring your attention to, because this really relates to what we're going to hear about from a step beyond as well, is this focus on direct service. I know the print is a little bit small, but I'll just read to you. We included as direct service everything from academic support, mental health supports, technology access, food security, voter engagement, income support. And you can see that there have been programs across the country doing that kind of work in their communities, basically filling gaps in their communities well before COVID. That work increased in COVID, and it increased substantially in a couple areas. No surprise, technology access went from 52 programs to 109 programs. The other kind of large leaps here, food security had almost 100% increase in the number of organizations. Housing, material well-being saw a large increase. Youth employment, interestingly enough, remained stable, which I think is also important to highlight how much these organizations that already see the importance of employing young people sustained that in what is undoubtedly the most difficult economic circumstance of our lifetimes. So this recognition and adaptation for what young people need is central to the work of creative youth development. In terms of findings, there are 2 findings that have really stood out for us. The role of BIPOC leadership, Black, Indigenous, people of color leadership. 1/3 of all respondents, as I said, are working at the nexus of systems change. 64% of these are BIPOC-led organizations, which, as I note here, is an extraordinarily higher percentage than the overall representation in the survey pool. The other really incredible piece here, and not surprising, but affirmed by the data, is that 81% of all the BIPOC-led organizations that responded to us are involved with supporting young people in their movement building. So this, for us, really reinforces the fact that BIPOC leadership is about systems change. It's not solely about equity from the perspective of Black and Indigenous and people of color leadership needs equal support from the philanthropic sector. It's that this leadership needs to be recognized for its greater delivery on equitable systems change than organizations led by white leaders. The other big finding as it relates to the data and kind of gleaning, an important gleaning for us, was the role of programs that offer multiple musical genres and are not singular genre specific. So again, you can see here, of all of the organizations that responded, 64% of those that are serving that large majority of young people from under-resourced background, thinking back to the pie chart I showed you, 64% of all of those in that section are offering 3 or more genres of music. Of those, 78% are supporting young people in movement work, and 93% of those organizations provided direct service before the pandemic. So for us, this is essentially the artistic side of being adaptive and responsive to what young people are asking for. Young people love music of all types and all genres. And when the programs are responding to that, they are offering more musical genres. That practice is the same as being responsive to the material and well-being needs that young people have. We developed 3 specific recommendations as part of this. So no surprise, amplifying support for BIPOC leaders, amplifying support for multi-genre pedagogical spaces. And then we really want to encourage joint analysis going forward with young people about this connection between direct service and movement building and their art making and their art learning. I'm gonna just throw this slide up here quickly. You can find this report at theLewisPrize.org. You can also email us. You'll also can follow us on social media, and you can sign up for our newsletter on theLewisPrize.org if you want to stay up to date on what we're doing on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Delug. Thank you for sharing all that. I mean, that data is unfortunately not surprising, right? For those of us that have been in this work for a long time, and hopefully it's eye-opening to those who are just getting a better understanding of not just arts education around the country, but the role of creative youth development in our communities. And I think Delug, both you and I do work at the national level. That most of that national data really is reflective of the local data as well. There's just a microcosm of what's happening in local communities. And I think it really kind of captures the holistic role that these organizations are playing. I mean, at Claire Rose, we've always seen these organizations as arts-based community health centers, addressing public health needs of their young people, families, and communities. And I think a great example, a model example of that locally is a Step Beyond, doing incredible work up in Escondido in North County. And I would like to introduce Dr. Jose Virio, who is a board member at Step Beyond and also principal at Rancho, I want to make sure I get the name right, of the school, Rancho Buena Vista High School. So I'll hand it over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the time and effort. Beautiful presentation. Those recommendations really is what a Step Beyond has really been engaging in for years now. The founder, Frank Foster, along with Ms. Jennifer Oliver, have been just stalwarts of the community to really bring in a beautiful arrangement, if you will, of dance and really sort of creating a single step forward for community that looks like me and sounds like me. My name is Jose Manuel Villarreal, Dr. Jose Manuel Villarreal. Mucho gusto conocerlos a todos. I am bilingual. Sometimes I speak in English and think in Spanish and vice versa. And it's very difficult, as you can imagine. But it is a beautiful language. It is a beautiful culture. And it is one that has been difficult to shepherd in some ways. And my role as a leader has gone from being a farm worker kid out of Blythe, California, by the way, I will be buried. My father is there now. I grew up as a farm worker kid, working in various ways. And then I was a little mini lawyer for my mother who was cleaning houses and defending her from folks that would accuse her of stealing items. But I would say that these are not unusual stories to be told from most or some of the Latino community. And I would say that a step beyond is a single step forward. It is a single way to move forward because schools, I have worked as a senior director overseeing students who are incarcerated here at the County of San Diego, to opening a charter school, to being at a traditional setting. And my career started as a counselor. And everything that is stated when you hear stories or theories or arguments around, school to pipeline prison and all, it's true. It's true. We just had, unfortunately, 7 police officers here on top of a 9th grader because of a mental health crisis. We just had a tremendous outreach of support related to a Latino boy who's in mental health crisis. I had to engage multiple times with students who have their parents deported, and no wonder they're angry. But a step beyond is a place that others can be as well, to just provide another single step forward. But they're more creative than that. They're really trying to add dance and creativity. And to have students who look like me and sound like me dance in the way that they're being asked to dance is epic, to say the least. Schools are not equipped to do it all. Times have really changed. And the home visits that are provided there, that's what drew me as a board member, because I knew that organizations like Boys and Girls were wonderful. YMCA was wonderful. And yet we were missing something. And when I saw that they're tackling the greatest need of our current society to help our students who are, by record and by data, falling behind, the achievement gap is not improving. But if we can just hook them, if we can just give them one step ahead, one step beyond from what their current reality is, that's what we need to continue to do. And by adding a beautiful work of music and of dance and of arts, it's tremendous. And that is really what I think, and I see back now doing this 20 plus years. I teach at a university at night. I'm on other nonprofit boards, and this one keeps me hooked. And I'll be honest, I almost quit a Step Beyond a couple times because I feel like I wasn't doing enough. And I think just being there may just be enough because I just want to continue to offer that voice of my story that I think others will share. It is really one that makes us say, how can we get more funding for a Step Beyond? How can we duplicate those resources? Because in the end, that's all we have left is a story to tell. But if we can tell that story through this powerful board that we're part of up in Escondido, and we come with our own hearts. I'll also say this, if I may, because I was told by Matt that we are amongst friends. I always said that Frank Foster, who is white, has a brown eyes and a brown heart. And he knows what I mean by that. And it probably makes him uncomfortable, but I say it anyway, because it really is something that often is forgotten and missed. Is sometimes we want to couch it under equity, couch it under cultural responsible teaching and learning. And in the end, it's about telling a story, because even we have our own stories to tell. We have our own struggles to tell, and others started from way back behind that starting line and are just getting there in their life. So I would say we need more of this. We need more research. We need more folks of color. We need more to ensure that the arts is alive and well, because yes, I have seen it here in my 20 years of existence in public education, how the arts is last often. There are not enough being provided and established for giving creativity and ways for people to engage with each other, with music, with theater. I was just meeting with their theater department today, and they're doing a beautiful play on Thanksgiving, but it's a satire play. And so we're kind of now moving in a beautiful place to make sure that the roads are open post George Floyd. I remember not having the license to really speak my truth of the macro and microaggressions that I face. But after that incident, I have a full license and I'm very comfortable to share it. And it's still tough. It really is in many ways. And our students really finding that voice with that homework assignments that they get help with. During COVID at A Step Beyond, they were still engaged virtually with this after school program because they just couldn't let go of them. Home visits are critical there with the social workers that work there, even just the retired teachers that are there. And then really what brings them all together is dance, creativity, and really being able to open their minds beyond math problem, beyond learning English to Spanish, Spanish to English. And I will say this, and I'll keep it short, but I will say that sometimes I'll speak to within the subculture of the Latino community, because I won't speak for all of them, but I would say that those that I have interacted with have often said, I don't really feel like I belong in the United States or in my country of origin, because sometimes I just can't fit in. Being bilingual is beautiful. Being bicultural is beautiful, but there are some repercussions to that. So how do we manage that? How do we manage this cognitive dissonance that we're engaged in? Well, you need more social workers. You need more home visits. You need more tutoring. You need more of that love and support. And I think that we can do that. I think the arts can be present. The beautiful images that were just shown are just inspiring in many ways. And so I just would say that for me, that's what keeps me on board, even though I feel like I'm not doing enough. And I just, I'm just one guy. And I think I'm finally embracing who I am and trying to give back as much as I can, because I was raised to be humble. I was raised, even the question earlier, I'll say to Matt, when Matt said, what do you want to be called? I said, oh, call me what you want. That was my father talking. That was my mother talking, saying, stay humble, kid. And then I said, well, but here at school, I say, call me Dr. V because I'm still paying my loans back. So, it's still a struggle, right? In some ways of how we embrace who we are and our identity in this world. But our students are struggling today. There is a silent killer of mental health illness, and we need more of this. We need more of these types of programs to just get them inspired to what is happening around us. It is a scary place we are in right now. And the masks alone are not the problem. I think we've been masking for a long time. And I think we're finally realizing what's in front of us. And our students are telling us, our community is telling us. And I think we're listening. Whether we do something about it, it depends on the program, right? It depends on who's there. But I think A Step Beyond is, and they have been. And I'm really excited to be part of that organization. I was honored to be asked to be here today. Again, not knowing what I was going to say, what I was going to share, but simply share with you my heart, share with you my story, maybe make you smile, and know that folks like you inspire me, and know that you all do have brown eyes and brown hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. V. One of the, I'm excited too that we also have two, as Delug mentioned, we have two actually staff members from the Step Beyond, Jen Oliver and then Araceli, who oversees their family services. So during the Q&A, I'm looking forward to engaging them in what they're seeing in the day-to-day. But one of the core values and tenets of creative youth development is youth voice, right? What do we all in this work for? For young people. And so creative youth development programs are designed in partnership and in allyship with young people that they serve. And we have an incredible young person with us today from A Step Beyond. And Aline, are you ready to go? All right, I'm just gonna hand it over to you.
Okay, can everybody hear me well? Yes, all right, okay. First of all, if you guys hear a noise in the back, I'm sorry, because kids are here are crazy. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Ms. Jen and Ms. Araceli for letting me speak. And I don't know where to start. There's a lot of things I can say. But I would say, first of all, that this program, I've been in this program for almost 7 years. I'm a sophomore student. I am in 10th grade. I'm taking honors classes. I'm an avid student too. And it is really hard. Trust me, it is. I always tell my mom, like, no, it's not gonna be hard. It's gonna be all easy. My brother is also in middle school. He's in 6th grade. He's also a part of A Step Beyond. And it's really helped him too. I can really say that because I've seen the change in my brother. This program is something I didn't expect to have when I was in middle school or high school either, because this is all the way through high school scholarship. I noticed that I wasn't the same person who I am today. I can tell you that in 3rd grade, I was a very, very shy person. I feel even proud of myself just speaking here and talking to everybody because I'm so nervous right now and I'm trying to breathe. So, and it's something I really didn't expect to have at one point, but knowing this program is something, wow. Dance is, wow. I didn't know what to do. In my elementary school years, I had really difficult times with reading and math and academics specifically. And we noticed that I had an improvement at one point, and the people who were there to help me, the program was a step beyond. I noticed that my grades started to improve. I started to understand better in my class, and teachers were telling me that, oh, you understand now. How did you do that? As a Latina person who's Mexican American and sort of Italian, it really is hard for me to understand sometimes because I was born in a Latin home. Everybody would talk Spanish, just Spanish. And it's something I really didn't expect to have, but knowing that a step-in has been there for me a very long time, and I'm really thankful for that because I've had a lot of ups and downs in my life. And middle school, 6th through 8th grade was something I didn't think I was gonna do. I was really nervous that like, oh, what if I end up like a person across the street? What if I end up like those people that I know that are supposed to be my friends, but they're not my friends. They're just people I know. In 6th and 7th and 8th, they were really hard to understand too for me. I, in 7th grade, got diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and it was a very big turn for me. I'm thankful for Miss Arcelli because Miss Arcelli was there helping me throughout my time when I really needed it. And it was really something I didn't expect. In 8th grade, when we were done, I ended up in the hospital. And that week also on the Step Beyond, it was a film week. We were filming too. So I was twisting and turning. So that week in the hospital, I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was literally gonna die because what I had was supposedly something that was supposed to kill me. And it was really, really tough. I had to manage my school. I also had to manage dance too at the same time. A Step Beyond can give you limits. You push your limits, they push you. But when you know that you gotta stop, you have to stop. You know that at one point that your body's gonna say, no, I can't do it. So don't do it. I pushed myself way too much and I ended up in the hospital. And that same time I got out of the hospital, I got released a few days after. It was a Step Beyond week. So that was my motivation that week. I had a film. We let a Step Beyond know like right away that like, oh, I'm out. Like what times do I have to do and everything. And I didn't think I was ready. I really said to myself, like, am I really ready to go back already when I'd just been laying down on a hospital bed with literally no sleep because I couldn't even sleep. But we noticed that it was a really huge improvement. I actually showed myself that I was actually a strong person that can actually go up and do something less than a week and learn the choreography. And it's something I really didn't know. I'm like, wow, I showed myself, I showed my teachers and my friends around me that either way I ended up in the hospital for a week. I did it. I did the film. I just couldn't push myself how I wish I would have pushed myself in the film, and the film came out great. It came out beautiful. I really can say that. But knowing now at this point that everybody will have ups and downs. I learned that since middle school, and I still get that repeated to myself every time. And my parents always want me to be the best person I can be in my life. They want me to be better than them because unfortunately my dad lost his job. He the company closed down. So my dad is looking for another job. So we're hoping November he's gonna get a new job. So I'm praying in there. So and my mom works by cleaning houses. And it's really hard. It's really tough on her too, because she is trying her best to always bring food to the table. And we always have assistants here at school knowing what to do and everything. And it's really something I really am grateful for a step beyond. I say it every day to myself that, wow, I have a program there to help me when I need it. And my mental health status right now is that I'm completely nervous because there's a bunch of people around me right now. And I'm just really happy for this opportunity from Miss Jen too. I'm in 10th grade. I'm doing it. I'm almost there. I'm class 2024. I am really trying my best here at this point. A step beyond, I really feel like it's benefited me a lot, really a lot, because my grades can go up and down. My mental health can go up and down too. But me just being here as a human being, that's gonna happen every day. I'm gonna be here every day saying that, like, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to chemistry class specifically. I don't like chemistry. But I can keep saying that to myself. But it's gonna be at the end. It's gonna be worth it, because once you step on that stage, knowing that like you're done, you finished high school. Now what's next for you? And my parents always told me that it's gonna be worth it. It really is gonna be worth it for you, because my parents don't want me to end up people like on the street. And my mom always told me that like you always have to try your best. You have to know what to do. And I showed you the ways how to do it. You just gotta know how to do it. My dad always told me that always do it. Either way, if it's an annoying class, if it's something really, really unnecessary, still do it if it's something good for you. If it's not, don't do it. I like simple things. I'm a very simple student. I know that you guys feel weird because I'm talking through this mask. I'm in school right now. I can't take off a mask. I'm inside, so sorry. I'm smiling under my mask. So just keep that in mind. I'm smiling under my mask. I really am a student who really enjoys Step Beyond. At one point, truthfully, in 8th grade, I was going to drop out of a Step Beyond. And I told one of the teachers that, what am I doing here? If I know that I'm not going to do this anymore, why am I here? And it was in 6th year at a Step Beyond. And I told, what am I doing here? If I know that I'm not going to do this anymore, I can just throw it all away. And she told me specifically to not throw it all away, because at the end, it's going to be worth it. That's what I've heard from every teacher and everybody who I've talked to before in my life, that it's going to be worth it at the end. And it has been worth it, because I got a lot of opportunities from a Step Beyond. I've got a lot of opportunities here at school too, as being an honor student too here at school. It's really hard sometimes, but I know what to do. A Step Beyond offered me and 3 other students a week scholarship at Irvine, close to Irvine in Orange County. We did a week of dancing. It was ballet, contemporary, and choreography class. That was a really stressful week too. It was really stressful, but it was really fun actually to enjoy with my friends too, who were there with me. I got to meet new students there, new dancers too. it really impacted me because it made me look at a new perspective in life. It made me look at that like, oh, it's there. Like, wow. I changed my way to think. I changed my mindset a lot. And yeah, it's really something I didn't really expect that I was going to have, but Step Beyond is really something that I really hope every kid has in their life, or somebody to just go and talk to, saying that like, oh, yeah, this and this happens, and that's it. I really, really do hope that every student and every human being has that type of choice to have a Step Beyond. And that's all that I got to say about a Step Beyond.
Thank you, Aileen. Thank you for sharing your story. It's one of resilience and strength, and it's one that many young people are going through. So I appreciate you having this strength, because I know public speaking is always hard. So thank you for sharing it. Before we get into some Q&A, I did want to just give Jen and Araceli maybe a moment or two just to, if you look at 10 different creative youth development organizations, they might look 10 different ways, but all have the same kind of approach. A Step Beyond is unique because they start working with young people in 3rd grade. And so, Jen, would you mind just kind of talking about the design, and Araceli, can maybe you just talk for a minute about just some of the support services that you've been providing young people, especially during the last couple of 18 months or so.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. So we are a creative youth development organization. We are founded in dance. So youth come to us because they love dance. They have a passion for it. Maybe it's their spark. They are coming young, so 3rd and 4th grade. Some of them come for just a few years and then they move on to other interests, but they gain a lot of support in academics and family services, counseling support. So basically we are a full service organization. We know that for a child to be successful on the dance floor, they have to feel successful at school, and they also have to be able to have their needs met at home. And so we want to make sure that they can have that success. So we make sure to have access to all of those ways of supporting our youth. Our goal is for them to come in 3rd grade and then to stay with us all the way through high school. So it is a long-term investment. Not everybody stays that long, but that's our goal. And there's multiple entry points too. So some youth come at older ages as we continually recruit students. Aline is one of our, she's one of our oldest cohorts. So we are still new. We're in our 7th year of programming. We have our group that's going into their 8th year. So Aline is in her 7th year. So she was our 2nd cohort. And we take a cohort of about 35, 40 students a year. And we're intentionally small. So our resources are very limited. We have limited space. We have limited staff. But we are really focused on deep. So even though we don't have the various numbers of students, we make sure that we serve each child over a long period of time. And so we build really strong relationships. I have been Aline's teacher since day one. So we have a very long relationship. And that's part of the power of the program, is this mentorship model. And that we show Aline and other students, like, I'm not going anywhere, girl, I got you. Like, you lost interest this year, that's cool. Like, just show up to a couple classes, maybe come hang out with me in the leadership lab. Like, I'm not going anywhere, and your scholarship is not going anywhere. So she's not alone in being someone who got to middle school or maybe joined soccer or something, and thought, well, maybe I'll do something else. But like that relationship that we're building, it's long lasting, and it's because we love our students. And I can't say that word enough, because I feel like we don't use it enough in education, especially. I love my youth. I love them. And that's why I show up to work every day. That's why Araceli has a smile on her face. This is our passion. We love them so much, and we want everything for them. So I will be here, Aline, until you graduate from high school, and then you're going to keep coming back, because you and I are together in this journey. So I'll pass it over to Araceli, because we did provide a lot of extra services during COVID, and our family service team really stepped up. And by team, I mean like one. So there she is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen. Aileen, beautiful. I love hearing your story every time. So thank you for sharing it. where do we, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin, but what I can say is that our families were greatly impacted by everything that happened. And I think just a step beyond, just like, I think like Dr. V said, just stepped up, to help a lot of these families. And yeah, right away we saw there was a need. We provided emergency food assistance. For the first time, we provided, we had a bigger grant to provide rental assistance. We provided case management. We even connected some families with employment. So we just really try to reach out to different community partners and bring those resources to our families at a step beyond, because we know that there's a huge need, right? And I think one of the things I think about is there's organizations out there that are bigger organizations, but they're also serving a lot of, I would say a lot of individuals. So like interfaith, right? And so a lot of the times our families are not able to access those right away. And with us being there and them coming to us, we're able to connect them. We're able to provide those resources. Mental health is a big passion of mine. And I always say to everybody at a step beyond, it's just having that access to mental health services is so important, because we know also, research shows it, that they don't get that access. They don't have those resources. So being able to be there and provide that opportunity is so important. So I'm just so grateful. So we did a lot of that, and it's something that we continue to do is just making sure we check in with our students. This has really affected a lot of our students' mental health, so much grief, so much loss in different ways, that just checking in with them, making sure they're okay. How can we connect? How can we connect you to resources? How can we support you? And I think also, I was gonna say, just like a community, those building the connection. I feel like a lot of the parents, talking to those parents, were like, I felt like I was alone, but I'm not alone. You guys are here. We're part of this community. And I don't know, that just felt so good to know that we're there for them. So,
yeah, you pretty much encapsulated creative youth development right there, right? So many people, one of the efforts of this series is to change perceptions and narratives, right? They say, oh, it's an after-school dance program. No, it's not. It's all of this, right? And there's so much of it happening in our community. So I appreciate all of you for sharing your truth, sharing your practices, sharing your perspectives. And we have a few minutes for some questions. If anyone has any questions, you can just jump right in. You don't have to put in the chat. I've got some questions if we need a prompt. I know Delug might have a question or comment, so I will.
I want to wait. Anyone have questions? I do have something to build upon what we just heard, but I want others' voices, questions, if there are any. Okay, I'm going to make my comment quickly, which is to say, I want to lift up a couple of things that we just heard. First of all, Jen said, we take in a limited number of students and we go deep. And I think that's a really important characteristic, and it's an important differentiator to the way that arts education has been provided in schools for many, many years, particularly in music programs, where you get large numbers of students in bands or orchestras or choirs. And it's very much about the kind of artistic learning. This is relational work. Creative youth development is deeply relational work, and that then is my pivot to the second point, which is families who are regularly finding themselves without access to resources and or jobs, and or the only places they can get those resources are through institutional or social service or government programs. Those, all too often, the experience of being associated with those programs is not about being a person, it's about being a client. And these programs do not treat anyone like they are a client. They are They are family. The Lewis Prize for Music, we're in the middle of our site visits. If I was to do a word chart of the word we hear most regularly all across the country with creative youth development, from the young people, from the adults, from the partners, it's family, family, family. And everything that we just heard is really about the level of trust that family achieves and enables then families to welcome the support that these programs provide. It's not viewed as coming from a charity or coming from someone who doesn't know wouldn't sit at our kitchen table with us and share the food that they've brought in the door. This is about that holistic community family connection. And I think that's where creative youth development and really community arts in total are an important differentiator from sort of the historic notions of what art and arts education are. And I will say, I'm apologize that I will absolutely have to leave right at 1:59 because I go back to one of our site visits from this. So thank you all for this opportunity to share with you today.
Thank you, Delug. Really appreciate it. And we did get a question from Jonathan Glesser on, is CYD funded differently than arts ed or traditional nonprofit arts and culture? Where are the deficits in funding for CYD? I'll answer that and jump in. I think, Jonathan, we saw it a bit during the past 18 months when there was a deluge of money, COVID relief money. And it went to those organizations providing direct services, those larger institutions, those traditional health and human services. And arts and culture was really kind of saw a huge deficit and huge drop in funding. And the CYD organizations got caught up in that as arts and culture organizations, while, as you can hear, they're the ones providing these direct services, whether it's employment, whether it's food security, whether it's COVID relief resources. And so I think that the deficit is those funders having a better understanding of the role that these communities play. As Araceli said, these are these families and young people trust these people. They don't know the people at Interfaith. Interfaith does great work, by the way, but it's that trust and it's that access. This is their access and trust point. So let's meet them where they are. And I think funding needs to flow, non-traditional arts and cultural funding needs to flow into these organizations to do these wraparound services. So that's one observation. I don't know if anybody else on the call has a.
I'll just add an additional piece, which is so much, and I know this from raising funds at San Diego Youth Symphony, so much arts education funding asks you, how many kids do you serve and how much do you spend per child? This is not a model of work that meets the basically dollars efficiency equation. And I think as a result of that being a historic arts education metric, creative youth development organizations are defunded or underfunded. And then the other thing is that they are so culturally diverse that programs that emphasize classical music, which I raised funds and led for many, many years, or any other very, very Eurocentric art form also find themselves struggling to receive funds for their cultural and or other contemporary musical idiom instruction or contemporary arts instruction.
Thank you for those 2 points, Delug. And you are going to be late. It's 1:59. So, and at this point, again, thank you, everybody, all the panelists. I'd like to turn it back over to Carlos from Catalyst San Diego and Imperial Counties to close us out for the day. And I hope you all enjoyed our panelists as much as I did.
Agreed. Thank you, Matt. I thoroughly enjoyed the session. I want to thank my colleague, Melissa, who will pop up the evaluation poll we talked about. And as you're taking a look at that poll, I'm just going to share what really stuck out with me. The statement about BIPOC leadership is about systems change. I had always had that as a general thought, but that statement really encapsulated why it's so important to invest in BIPOC leaders. And also the growth of direct services at CYDs, I think really just emphasizes the value of wraparound support. And just I have to echo what other folks are saying about Aline's story. I was blown away by the reflections, and in particular, the note about pushing yourself too hard. That's something that I will have to really look at because I have to recognize that rest is really important to making it to the finish line. And so I want to thank you all for your time again. Thank you to our speakers, to our partners at the Claire Rose Foundation and the City of San Diego Commissions for Arts and Culture. I wish everyone a beautiful day and enjoy your weekend. Take care, everyone.